This audio recording is intended to facilitate the gradual release of confidential documents pertaining to a top-secret exchange program where 12 U.S. military personnel went to the planet Serpo, which was located in the Zeta Reticuli star system between the years 1965 and 1978. Release 26. A Violent 85 Contact with ETs in Russia. Victor, in order to make this report more readable to your huge list, here is the intelligence lexicon that will make the following still highly classified CIA report more understandable. Glossary of terms: CAC, Controlled Agency Contact; CIA, Central Intelligence Agency; CO, CIA Case Officer; Craft, Alien Spacecraft; FAC, Foreign Agency Contact; HQ, Headquarters; KGB, Komitet Gorsudostvenoi Bezopasnosti, Committee for State Security; NOC, Non-Official Cover, No Diplomatic Immunity Extended; NSA, National Security Agency; Occupants, Alien Beings; PG, Polygraph; RA-049, Moscow CIA Station; CAC 0490031, Reporting Station for Controlled Agency Contact 49, followed by his number 31; SC, Station Chief; 7 Prince, code word for intelligence collection within a foreign country; 7 Prince Cobra, code word for foreign intelligence collection within the old Soviet Union. My group and I have given you a very wide latitude in appending any additional information you feel that is relevant, as you did with Project Serpo postings 23, 24, and 25. We were all very pleased. Please use your continued sound judgment and provide any additional supplementary material at the end that you feel would benefit and enrich this target audience. Many of your sharp readers will note that there are some glaring discrepancies in this report and will be surprised at its brevity and oftentimes broken syntax. It is important for everyone to read my notes concerning this report, which I'll ask you to place immediately after the report of contact. More to come. Anonymous. Moderator's notes. As is my custom, I have corrected the original report for missing articles, punctuation, either missing or unnecessary, faulty parallelism, shifts in verb tense, and hyphens inserted into compound modifiers, for example, tight-fitting outfit, pear-shaped head, etc. The sole intent is to make this stunning report more readable and flow better. That's it. However, the original 2-page CIA report has been included as an inline image and will appear on the Serpo.org website as thumbnails that one can click on for a larger image, as was done in posting number 23. For those who have followed the most recent Project Serpo postings, the following UFO ET incident in the former Soviet Union will remind one of the infamous Gate 3 incident. In this manner, researchers can examine and scrutinize the document itself to see if they believe it to be an authentic representation of the genuine artifact. Begin Project Serpo, posting number 26. Code word 7 Prince. Summary of intelligence activity, report of contact. Station RA-49. Source CAC-049-0031. Date 12 January 85. Summary of information. CAC reported a confrontation with an alleged space alien by Soviet military personnel at Ceremchovo. CAC was taken to the site after a UFO landed northwest of Ceremchovo ICBM Site 62. Ceremchovo. Soviet military personnel confronted the craft and its occupant. A confrontation developed and Soviet military personnel shot one of the occupants. After the shooting incident, several other occupants of the craft retrieved the injured occupant and returned to their craft. A beam of light exited the craft and struck a Soviet military M40 Jeep, completely vaporizing the vehicle. No Soviet military personnel were in the Jeep during the attack. Soviet military personnel fired several rounds of 12.7 mm at the craft. One of the rounds struck the undercage of the craft. The craft glowed a bluish-green color. The craft's occupants, numbering 4, exited the craft and were taken into custody by Soviet military personnel. The occupants were transported to the Ceremchovo military barracks and detained. CAC was given access to the occupants. CAC advised the occupants were dressed in a gray-colored, tight-fitting suits. All occupants appeared to look the same. They were described as height 1 meter tall, weight 25 kilograms, no hair, 4 fingers, and no thumbs, narrow feet with no big toe. The eyes were oversized compared to the size of their head. The head was pear-shaped. No ears were observed. The mouth consisted of just a small slit. A small nose was observed, but no nostrils were observed. The occupants were interrogated but would or could not understand Russian. Several other languages were attempted, including English, French, German, and Spanish. The craft's occupants would not respond. 24 hours after the occupants were detained inside a Soviet jail, they disappeared. The craft, which was secured by Soviet military personnel, also disappeared. Report of contact details. On the 22nd January 85, CAC made contact through an agent communication device AN-23, signaling the CO that a contact was requested. On 23 January 85, the SC approved a plan to conduct a closed interview of CAC at Site 4-SO-P-6. The CO, with the assistance of CO2, CO3, CO4, CO5, and NOCS-223 and NOCS-101, made contact with CAC. The counter-surveillance report is attached. Contact was made at Site 6. A polygraph, SC requested a routine PG, was administered. No deception was noted. The entire interview was recorded both on audio and video by CO3. The language used during the interview was in Russian. CAC advised of the following. On 12 January 85, while working normal duties at Regional 2, Soviet Control Center Command, CAC, was informed of an incident at the Ceremchovo ICBM facility involving a UFO. Specific information was requested by Command Central. CAC read the initial cable from the on-scene Soviet commander. The initial cable reported that a UFO had landed northwest of missile site K3. Soviet military personnel responded to the scene. A dark-colored UFO was found on the ground east of the missile command facility. One missile technician was standing near the east boundary looking at the UFO. As Soviet military personnel came within close proximity of the UFO, 2 occupants of the craft exited through a door. The occupants approached the east perimeter fence of K3. Soviet military personnel challenged the occupants to stop. 3 of the 4 occupants stopped. The 4th occupant continued to advance towards the fence. One Soviet military security officer fired several rounds from an AK-47 rifle, hitting the occupant. The occupant fell to the ground. The 3 other occupants advanced toward the injured occupant and retrieved the body. The 4 returned to the craft. Approximately 2 minutes later, an opening appeared on the side of the craft. A bluish-green beam of light came out of the craft and struck an unoccupied jeep, completely vaporizing it. As the author of the report being read by CAC stated, the jeep just disappeared. An armored vehicle moved up towards the craft and fired a volley of 12.7 millimeter rounds at the craft. The craft was struck near the undercarriage. The 4 occupants, minus the injured occupant, exited the craft and walked towards the Soviet military personnel. As one of the on-scene commanders stated, the 4 occupants did not appear to be afraid. They approached the armored vehicle and sat on the ground. Soviet commanders on scene assumed the occupants were surrendering. Several attempts were made to communicate with these occupants using the Russian language. The occupants did not seem to understand the speaker. The occupants were carried to the jeep and transported to the Ceremchovo military barracks, building number 45. Note, CAC-049-63 had reported building number 45 was KGB headquarters for Region 2 Command Center. This information was verified by NSA source Echo 3. The occupants were placed inside detention cells. 1 occupant per cell. CAC arrived at Ceremchovo Military Barracks, building number 43, on 13th January 85. CAC was allowed to enter each cell and attempt to communicate with the occupants. CAC used English, French, and German languages. The occupants would appear to listen while CAC was speaking but would not answer. The occupants appeared to be very passive. 2 other KGB officials, one speaking Spanish and the other speaking English, attempted to communicate but to no avail. The Soviet Military Command Center commander advised that Moscow was requesting the occupants be flown to Military Barracks 10. Intelligence historical records indicate Barracks 10 was located in Obnitsk, south of Moscow. On 14th January 85, at approximately 0630 hours, the cells where the occupants were located were empty. No sign of a forcible exit was observed. The craft, which was being guarded by the elite Soviet Border Patrol Branch G, also disappeared. CAC reported Soviet KGB officials took over 100 photographs and 1 video recording of the occupants. CAC provided 25 copies of the photographs to this CIA CO. Analysis. Source: CAC is well known to HQ. He has reported reliable information for the past 22 years. CAC is the best deep access agent available to our operating location. The information provided by CAC is somewhat unbelievable based on the subject matter. However, this CO feels the information warrants further study. CO feels additional assets should be directed towards the target area to confirm CAC's information. Examination of the photographs revealed the occupants did not appear to be humans. We will allow HQ analysts to make more accurate interpretations of these photographs. Plan of operation. After conferring with the SC, the CO will plan a course of action to determine the reliability of CAC and the credibility of the information provided by CAC. Sierra report will accompany this report. Blacked out information 049-004. End. Project Serpo posting number 26. Anonymous supplementary notes. Victor, you may present these background notes I have provided you in whatever order and presentation you wish. I'm going to use what is known in expository writing as transitional writing style with block paragraphing. 1. The initial report of contact is made from the field station chief directly to CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. 2. What I've provided you is only a report of contact which we refer to as raw intelligence, or you would term a rough draft as an English teacher. This report of contact is the first thing out of the gate and basically serves more as a summary of events which is compiled while people's memories are still fresh. This is why it's so short. The actual final report is called a Sierra report and is an extremely detailed presentation of all the intel collection activity on a particular event, with all COs, CIA case officers, as well as NOCs submitting their own reports. Additionally, the Sierra report will contain any known taken photographs, recordings, and an abstract of what's on the recording and a brief summary of what the photos purportedly show. Polygraphs, lie detector test results, and of course, all of the individual field reports. All of this is then given to 1 or 2 CIA analysts who then, much like you would either as an editor or teacher, assemble all of this data and place it in the proper format and style for acceptable presentation. After this, the CIA SC signs off on the Sierra report. This information is then routed via diplomatic pouch to CIA management at Langley and then distributed to the need-to-know management personnel and routed appropriately from there. In the case of this Soviet ETE human contact incident, if I recall, the Sierra report was somewhere in the 66 to 70 page range for this event alone. 4. When our CAC first made us aware of this incident, even before the report of contact was finalized, the SC sent a teletype from the Moscow station to CIA HQ. Teletype message was broken down into 4 categories. A. Flash message, urgent, TS, top secret, code word given required. B. Immediate message, classified at least at the secret level, must be sent out within 24 hours. C. Priority message, confidential or secret message. This is a backup and/or provides additional information to an immediate message. D. Routine message. Normal traffic cannot contain any intelligence info, must be non-classified material. Oftentimes it is publicly accessible information such as newspaper stories, magazine articles, and other published media reports. Of particular note, it is the NOC's non-official cover personnel who are the James Bond cloak and dagger types whom you see portrayed in the movies, TV, and popular literature, not our CIA COs, case officers. This information should provide your large readership the proper context and framework this two-page report was presented in. More to come, Anonymous. Moderators' endnotes. 1. The use of an energy-directed beam in vaporizing the Soviet Jeep vehicle is very reminiscent of the security guard being similarly vaporized by the CBE-1, cloned biological entity 1, also known as Arcaloid, as told in the Gate 3 incident now memorialized in Project Serpo posting number 23. Note, I am withholding information on the CBE-1's use of the energy-directed beam device for a future Serpo posting pending some specific information. 2. Like you, I also noted the two major discrepancies in the stunning report you have just read. However, I feel that this was sufficiently addressed in Anonymous's supplementary notes. Based on what he stated, the initial raw report was most certainly polished later on for grammar, style, usage, and agreement consistency of all reported and known facts as laid out in the report of contact. In the report of contact, it's noted that 2, not 3, occupants exited the craft, and then says 3 of the 4 stopped. At what point did the 3rd and 4th alien occupants exit their alien craft? As I said, this was the initial raw report, rough draft, and reporting gaps like this were most certainly covered, addressed, and answered when the final Sierra report was issued. 4. I am only the messenger for this report. It's up to the UFO community, professional investigators, authors, and even armchair UFO researchers to determine the validity of this truly amazing, if true, ET human encounter in the old Soviet Union over 22 years ago. Supplementary background information on the 2 key intelligence agencies involved in the 1985 Soviet UFO incident. The Central Intelligence Agency. The Central Intelligence Agency was established by President Truman to coordinate U.S. intelligence and become a global agency for collecting and evaluating intelligence and for extending U.S. influence through covert action. The CIA was conceived of by Major General William Wild Bill Donovan, Director of the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, equals oh so social. Jokesters said that because a great number of OSS operatives came from aristocratic backgrounds and Ivy League universities who had been recruited by Arnold Wolfer's Masters of Pearson College. In 1944, Donovan suggested to President Roosevelt that after World War II, the United States should create a peacetime worldwide intelligence service. On Thursday, September 18, 1947, the Central Intelligence Agency was born. A 1949 amendment to the 1947 Act permitted the CIA to keep its official titles and salaries secret, hide its budget, and award contracts to private firms without bids. The agency was also allowed to award permanent residency to aliens and their families. This usually meant giving sanctuary to defectors and foreign agents. The CIA set up an Office of Special Operations, OSO, to handle covert actions. In June 1948, another NSC, National Security Council, directive authorized preventive direct action including sabotage, anti-sabotage, demolition, and evacuation measures, subversion against hostile states, including assistance to underground resistance groups. During the UFO Soviet Union incident, the director of the CIA was William J. Casey, appointed by President Ronald Reagan, and served as the DCI from January 28, 1981 through January 29, 1987. Serving as the DDCI was John N. McMahon, also appointed by Reagan, and he served from June 10, 1982 to March 29, 1986. Footnote: Current Secretary of Defense Robert M. Gates temporarily served as acting director during Casey's illness from December 18, 1986 through May 26, 1987. Intelligence Groups to Know. Special Group. The Special Group was a senior interdepartmental organization tasked with overseeing the CIA's high-risk covert operations during the 1950s and early 1960s. Also known as the 5412 Group, the Special Group traced its lineage to the Early Operations Coordinating Board, OCB. The OCB was later renamed the 5412 Group, or simply the Special Group. During the administration of President John Kennedy, the Special Group was known as the 303 Committee, after a room in the Executive Office complex in Washington, D.C. The group was later known respectively as the 40 Committee and then the Operations Advisory Group. Members of the Special Group included representatives from the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of Defense, and Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS, the Oval Office, and the CIA. Operations Coordinating Board. The Operations Coordinating Board, or OCB, was the first in a series of senior interdepartmental organizations tasked with overseeing the CIA's high-risk covert operations. On September 3, 1953, President Dwight Eisenhower issued Executive Order EO 10483, which created the OCB. EO 10483 also eliminated the Psychological Strategy Board. On February 19, 1961, President John Kennedy issued a directive abolishing the OCB. All OCB functions were rolled into the Special Group. The CIA's headquarters, is it in Langley or McLean, Virginia? Technically, CIA headquarters is in both. Langley is the name of the McLean neighborhood in which CIA headquarters, also known as the George Bush Center for Intelligence, is located. The town of McLean was founded in 1910. Before that time, the area where CIA headquarters is located was known as Langley. In 1906, a railroad began operating and the population of Langley and nearby Lewinsville quickly grew. In 1910, the post offices of these towns closed and a new post office, McLean, was opened. In 1959, the U.S. government broke ground for the CIA headquarters building. Construction was completed in 1961, adding another chapter to McLean's long history. Despite the name change in 1910, the name Langley is still used to describe the area. The KGB of the Soviet Union. KGB, Komitet Gosudarbstvenoy Bezopasnosti, Committee for the State Security. It was the Soviet agency responsible for state security from March 1954 until October 1991, the eve of the demise of the Soviet Union in December 1991. Subsequently, the principal foreign intelligence functions of the KGB were assigned to the newly established Central Intelligence Service. In addition, from 1960 to 1966, the KGB was also responsible for the internal security of the Soviet Union. The KGB's functions included counterespionage, foreign intelligence collection and analysis, counterintelligence for the armed forces, protection of land and maritime borders, and certain special security functions, among them the control of nuclear weapons, communications for national leadership, and provisions of the Kremlin Guards. The KGB was the world's largest intelligence and police agency, probably larger than all Western intelligence agencies combined. For most of its existence, it was responsible for the functions that in the United States are carried out by the CIA, NSA, FBI, DIA, Marine Corps Embassy Guards, Military Counterintelligence Agency, the U.S. Border Patrol, Coast Guard, and the U.S. Secret Service. During the time of the alien craft landing in January 1985, V.M. Ceremchova was the chairman of the KGB from December 1982 through August 1988. KGB organization. The basic organization of the KGB in its later years provided for 9 chief directorates. First, Chief Directorate, Foreign Intelligence, Active Measures, Counterintelligence Analysis. Second, Chief Directorate, Domestic Counterintelligence, Counter-Subversion, Industrial Security. Third, Chief Directorate, Counterintelligence and Counter-Subversion within the Soviet Armed Forces, including the Special Departments, OPSE OTLE or OO. Fourth, Chief Directorate, Embassy Security and Internal Security. Fifth, Chief Directorate, Dissidents. Sixth, Chief Directorate, Economic, Secret, Political, and Transport. Seventh, Chief Directorate, Surveillance Equipment. Eighth, Chief Directorate, Signals Intelligence, Communication Security. Ninth, Chief Directorate, Protection of National Leadership and Sensitive Installations, including the Kremlin Guards. During the 1980s, the KGB was estimated to number more than 400,000 personnel, including 230,000 to 250,000 border troops and approximately 50,000 signal and security troops supporting the National and Communist Party leadership. There were also several 100,000 KGB informers within Soviet society, including the government and armed forces. It has been estimated that between 40% to 60% of Soviet embassy officials in Washington, D.C. were attached to the KGB. Officers of the KGB also served in combat areas supporting Soviet military and state interest. From 1954 to 1989, a total of 572 KGB personnel were killed rendering military technical assistance to other countries, including Arab countries, North Vietnam, and Afghanistan, and in border conflicts. The KGB and its predecessors operated a large education and training network with several spy schools to train Soviet and Eastern European intelligence and security personnel. The training facility at Pushkina near Moscow was used extensively to train Arab terrorists. Sources: Encyclopedia of the Central Intelligence Agency by W. Thomas Smith. Spy Book: The Encyclopedia of Espionage. Soviet UFO Files: Paranormal Encounters Behind the Iron Curtain. Author's comment: I feel I need to add a few words about the book. The publishers gave me only 124 pages to write about Soviet and Russian UFO phenomenon. I was able to include as much fascinating information as possible. To give more details and discuss cases and patterns, I would need hundreds of pages. But this is a great book and a good introduction to the subject for those who know little about the secrets of Soviet paranormal phenomenon. There are addresses of Russian and Ukrainian researchers should you wish to contact them. Western readers will learn of such amazing stories as the Ishimba 1953 incident over the Taiga, strange accounts of the Phobos 2 demise, will see excerpts from KGB files, and follow reports of Soviet military observers who had to report strange objects in the sky over their nuclear missile silos, submarines, secret cosmodromes, Chernobyl, Montrashok, Dalenjork, Tunguska, and World War II sightings, ancient Russian UFO sightings. The book covers a lot. Again, I am proud of my efforts and am eternally grateful to my contacts in the former Soviet Union, modern Russia, my country of birth, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and all others. Whether you buy the books or not is up to you. Paul Stonehill. And that is the end of this video. If you like things like this, please give this video a thumbs up. Please share this video. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I'll have more things like this. Take care.